Hello and welcome back everyone to Hollister MacIntyre. It is the off-season recap video. Let's start with Mitch Newman, our star Mike linebacker from last season, who is now an X factor. And you know, he's just really upgrading his skill level at his position. Mitch Newman was the best defensive player in the NFL last year, and it really wasn't even actually all that close. So it's no surprise that people are considering him one of the premier guys, one of the X factors in the league, as it were. Of course, he had unreal stats with 181 tackles, 104 of those being solo, 21 tackles for loss. Just an all-around unreal season from him. So, you know, obviously we're going to take a look at him in the offseason, and he's going to be a focal point of our defense going forward. He's definitely one of the best run stuffers in the game. He just really kind of neutralizes the entire middle of the field. The only deficit with his gameplay is maybe his pass coverage. And even then, it's not like it's a deficit necessarily as much as it is just his weakest component. So we're excited for Mitch Newman going forward. Of course, he's paired next to Jahlani Tavai, but Jahlani Tavai might be on the trade block this offseason. We'll see going forward. Let's go ahead and move to the next little bit of the offseason here. Jameis Winston wins MVP of the league with the Saints. So congratulations to him. Of course, you have Cam Newton, Baker Mayfield, a few other players down there. Jameis Winston is also Offensive Player of the Year. No shocker here. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Mitch Newman. I think none of us would be surprised by that result. Aaron Donald really close behind him, however. And even some Bears players, Khalil Mack and Cameron Sweeney, the edge rushers, making it. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Cole Bright out of Oklahoma University. He was fantastic, but of course Lance Roach actually ends up sneaking up to second place in the Rookie of the Year voting, with Sammy Blake all the way down there at 7th. Kosi Vincent even makes an appearance at 5. So pretty good season from Lance Roach. I think he did a lot more than we were expecting. Cole Bright, obviously a fantastic player, would love to have him, but you know, it is what it is. He's on the Buccaneers. Alright. Moving on to Defensive Rookie of the Year, that's going to go to John Westerman out of Tampa Bay, with Jay Terry so close behind him. John Westerman was a fantastic defensive player, so I'm not too upset about that, but best wide receiver does go to Dante Pettis. I mean, there's no argument here either. In the NFL, he was the best receiver, and it wasn't close. Mitch Newman gets best linebacker with Cameron Sweeney and Khalil Mack right behind him. Those Bears edge rushers are really solid, and I am not looking forward to playing them twice again next year. Ricky Rubini is the best kicker in the NFL, and let's move on past that as the Kansas City Chiefs officially beat the Super Bowl runner-ups of the last year, and I believe the Super Bowl champions of the previous year, the Dallas Cowboys. You know what's crazy is I think we had the Cowboys. I really think we had a chance in that game. It is what it is. Austin Belton. Yeah, I mean, just look at these stats. 539 attempts, great yardage numbers. I mean, 444 is really good, but 38 for 38, surpassing the Jameis Winston 30 for 30 special. I don't know. Matthew Beard had a fantastic year. One thing we want to find out is, was that a product of the offensive line or of Matthew Beard's running? Lance Roach also had a really good year running, even though his average only turned out to be 3.9. I think he was really good, especially down the last stretch of the season. And he's just such a versatile back. You know, unlike Matthew Beard, you can throw it to him out of the backfield. Sammy Blake also had a decent year, but unfortunately he was injured for most of it. Dante Pettis, our best wide receiver, almost 1,700 yards, 15 touchdowns. He was insanely good. I mean, that's one of the best wide receiver seasons in recent NFL history. McCole Hardman, I mean, he was really good behind him too. I just didn't feel like we got him enough touches, so that's definitely one thing we want to do going forward, is focus on getting Hardman more catches. Robert Woods, great season. Unfortunately for him, got injured for a lot of the season, so we weren't able to see what he'd do with more volume down the stretch. Lance Roach also in the passing game was a very effective weapon. Hawkinson was disappointing at tight end. We'll definitely probably be moving on from him. On defense, Xavier Woods was one of the linchpins of this defense. Unfortunately, contract talks have run dry with him, so we will likely be trying to pursue him in free agency maybe. With Jay Terry having a fantastic season in the run game as well. And then for sacks and tackles for loss, really just a spread out effort. Chance Fortunato does have the most sacks on the season. Trey Flowers probably would have had the most, but he did get injured. On offense, the Flyers rank one of the best in the NFL. Passing yards, we're there. Running yards, we're there. Points per game, number 1. What's sad is that we had such a good offense, and frankly such a decent defense, and didn't have a better record. Why is that? Well, we did give up 5,000 pass yards, which is a ton. Rush yards, we were really solid. Points, not great. Okay, so our defense is bad. Well, not necessarily, because the defense got 22 takeaways, 42 sacks, which is one of the tops of the league. It was great in run defense. The turnovers are the big story here. 45 giveaways to 21 takeaways. You can't pin that on the defense. Points does not go to the defense there. Points goes to the offense. Let's move forward a little bit. Look at retirements here, as we can see all these players retired. And as far as Salt Lake City Flyers players, Dante Hightower retires, and I was actually hoping to bring him back. And then Kenny Vaccaro retires, although he was not likely to stay anyway. Aaron Rodgers has officially called it quits out of Green Bay. Not sad to see him go at all, and we'll see who can replace him. Re-signing here, franchise tag, going to Trey Flowers, I think. I just didn't feel like TJ Hawkinson was worth the tag, and Flowers you can at least tag and then trade. Eric Devlin, I liked him. I really wanted to bring him back, but not for that amount of money. That one's one I was willing to take into free agency. Matthew James, you know, I figured I'd give him a training camp offer here. Just not sure on him yet. And then Trent Bullitt, I liked what I saw from him, and I like him as a prospect, so we're going to offer him a 1-year deal. Looking at the free agency class, Fletcher Cox headlined it with Mike Evans and DeMarcus Lawrence, and Brandon Sheriff as well in the top 5. Really actually a pretty solid free agent class. I don't know that I've seen a class like this in a while. Quarterback was another bit though. Matt Stafford had regressed quite a bit, it seemed, but he was the top quarterback in the class. You know, I'm looking for backups and a starter here, potentially, and I see Devlin, Tyler Huntley, Brett Hodges, Jalen Hurts. Well, let's get rid of Austin Belton. You know, that's the animosity we built up here. That we just want to get rid of him. Jimmy G was the guy I was really wanting to target in the offseason. Obviously not a straight-up trade, but I figured 2 first-round picks would get this thing done. I mean, they're talking a big upgrade for the 49ers as far as age, talent, and then contract. And for us, Garoppolo fits our scheme, but the 49ers were not interested. And I guess that's just because they're in such a win-now mode, they don't want to mess with team chemistry. Okay, Jared Goff was not quite as high level as Jimmy G, but I really liked what Jared Goff could bring to the table as far as his intangibles. 2 firsts was not working for them either. Okay, so what in the world am I going to do now? Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next trade prospect here, and that was Trey Flowers for Tre'Davious White, somebody that I thought of drafting when I first was trying to find a new quarterback a few years ago. Of course, Austin Belton fell to us, but I wanted Tre'Davious White and Nick Boyle for Trey Flowers. Figured this one wouldn't be too difficult to get done. Tre'Davious White is getting no action in Arizona. The Cardinals were not having it. Okay, so we're still scrambling for quarterback here, no pun intended. How about Daniel Jones at the Giants? Now, this is in conference. Oh, Giants were having those trade talks. In the meantime, let's go ahead and look at some other positions. I wanted Quandre Diggs as my free safety, and I figured I could snag Dusty Hill from Olympia as my Mike linebacker to pair alongside. So how about Sammy Blake and Jelani Tavai? Now, Sammy Blake just has no future with this team, unfortunately, even though he was a rookie last year. And Tavai regressed a little bit. The trade goes through, and I do maybe wonder that I got fleeced a little bit on this one. That's okay. I think Hale is a good prospect for the future, and I really like Diggs at free safety. How about Austin Belton and Oruwariye for Daniel Jones and 2 first-round picks? We'll throw a 5 in there to kick it. And the trade was officially made. Austin Belton is a New York Giant now, and Daniel Jones is our new #1 QB. Wow. So not quite what I was hoping to get. We did get a higher draft pick in the future. Not quite what I was wanting to get as far as Jimmy G, who I think would have been the best quarterback available. We'll go ahead and offer Eric Devlin a backup contract as well, just to see what he can do. Tight end to replacing TJ Hawkinson, I really like prospect Ernie Stachelski. He looked really good, 3-year guy out of Georgia. Surprised he's actually on the open market. Must have been asking for too much. How about Brandon Sheriff? I mean, the guy's there. You might as well take a flyer at him, right? Building this offensive line for a rookie, or even Daniel Jones at this point, would be a smart idea, considering we're already really good along the line, I feel like. Akeem Hicks? I mean, he would just build our front seven. So let's make a Trey Flowers trade happen. I tagged him. He's making $24 million a year. I don't want him on the roster as good as he is. How about a second and a third from the Eagles? No, okay. How about just a second? Well, they go for it, and again, maybe I got a little fleeced here. Maybe not the right call, but hey, we're building draft capital. It's going somewhere. We're going to bump up the offer for Akeem Hicks a little bit just to stay competitive with that one, and bump up Brandon Sheriff's offer a little bit as well. Just want to make sure these guys really feel loved by the team and want to come over. And they do have that as their #1 offer. How about Dalton Long? Just throw a flyer at him as well. I liked his stats, and I felt like I could move him to left tackle to be a backup to Connor Williams. Just had some good pass blocking, and that's really what I was looking for here. And then moving even further, Justin Madubuike out of Texas A&M. Really thought he was an interesting prospect. He has a lot of strength, but not a lot of block shedding. So the intangibles are there to be a great run stopper on the edge. Desmond Ellis, I liked his stats. You know, really fast guy. He's got a lot of agility, decent zone on day one. Press maybe could be a little better, but really felt like Desmond Ellis could be a solid backup cornerback for us. Maybe even a nickel back potentially. Not sure. Could be even a dime backer. Hugh Porter was like a guy that surprisingly was on the free agency block here. He's 23 years old, a really, really good slot receiver. Like, you get this ball in this guy's hands, he's got some good yak potential. You know, I figured, why not? He's 23. Let's take a 3-year deal on him and give him some money. I did want to bump back on the signing bonus a little bit just because we're not sure what we're getting out of him, and I don't want to have to be stuck to him if I can move on. We need a running back to replace Sammy Blake, and after what happened with Lance Roach, I was looking at wide receivers around the league that I felt like could make that impact at running back. They need to be very secure with the ball. They need to be able to see what to do from the running back position on day one, but also I really want them to have good receiving abilities and to be just fast. Scotty Miller fits that role. He's got great route running for a running back if I switch him, great hands for a running back, really, really fast, and just frankly, I think is a solid player. Alan Lazard, a deep threat out of Iowa State, played with Aaron Rodgers for a few years, but I think we can go ahead and steal him away from the Packers here. So let's go ahead and see who accepts. Moving forward here. Well, how about Eric Devlin returning to the team after being signed off of a practice squad? He accepts his offer. Justin Madubuike accepts his. Dalton Long accepts his, and we'll be moving him to left tackle. Brandon Sheriff accepting his. Akeem Hicks, Hugh Porter, and Ernie Stachelski. So right there, that is a successful free agency, I'd say. Now, one thing I'm worried about after we get Scotty Miller on the next little bit is, did I leave some really high caliber free agents on the table? Alan Lazard and Desmond Ellis accept, but there were some high profile people that I could have spent top shelf dollar on. I still have $11 million in cap room, you know, and I've got more behind the scenes, of course. So maybe I could have spent a little more here and there, but all around, solid roster. If rollover cap existed in this game, we'd be set for the next year. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Either way, we're looking all right. Let's go ahead and move forward again. This time, we're going to jump into the draft. And with the first pick, the Miami Dolphins will be drafting. Well, this one seemed pretty obvious. You know, there's a consensus #1, and his name was Jacarde Stoudemire. Jacarde is a left outside linebacker, edge rusher, and he's just a stud of a player, and he does go #1 overall, and we'll take a look at him in a bit, see if the Dolphins made a good call. Jamie Sanchez goes number 3, and then Derek Frost goes number 4. Derek Frost was who I wanted personally. Never really sniffed a chance at having him, unfortunately. And then on pick 25, Trevor Bertier would go to the Cincinnati Bengals out of BYU. We played against him a few times with Olympia. So that meant with our pick 25 officially, we looked at a few players, but ultimately Buffalo offered a pretty good compensation package here, moving back on the draft. We only have to move back 5 spaces to gain a third. And moving back, we would take, well, is it going to be Brett Kraft? Is it going to be Byron Handy? We really want one of these cornerbacks, and these are the best 2 remaining out of Olympia College, both of them. They played the 1 and 2 and really alternated who was the best, but we go with Byron Handy. His development is hidden. He's 21, out of Olympia, and he is a solid press man coverage corner on day 1. There might not be many better press man coverage corners in the NFL already. He's got some areas to work on, notably his zone, but that's a good start. With pick 30 that we traded back for, well, there were a few good options here. Colin Childress really tickled my fancy, though. I think he was underrated vastly out of Alabama. A little undersized, but one of Alabama's star linemen that really helped their running game be strong. We'll bring him in. He will be backing up Frank Ragnow to start, but expect him to be on the starting line soon enough. And John Schweiss would be the final pick of the first round to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Mike linebacker out of Olympia College, one of the best linebackers in the nation, going to make Kansas City a very interesting contender. So Rico Yasene, Kai Linehan, and Darius McIntyre were all still available. Don't know who you want to be your QB1 here, but any of them are an option. But the fact that all of them are still an option gave me pause to think and go, maybe I should look to bolster other roster spots first, and then once a quarterback gets taken, suddenly I'll make my move up. Brett Kraft is still available, and, I could have justified taking another corner, but we just had too much depth at the position. So how about Dylan Murdoch out of Utah University? A guy we scouted late. His combine grade was pretty interesting, and look at his stats as a wide receiver. This guy can do just about darn near everything. Dylan Murdoch is the teammate, or was the teammate rather, of Kai Linehan out of Utah. So hey, maybe something developing there. Brett Kraft would go shortly after that at pick 15 of the second round. So 47 overall, and a great pick there for the Las Vegas Raiders. Excited to play against him and go against that legendary corner. And without further ado, we would pick at 57 Kai Linehan. With Rico Yasene still on the board, we wanted Kai. He was our QB1, it seemed like, from the beginning, and at some point I just didn't want to risk a chance on another team having the same opinion of him as I did. His accuracy needs to be worked on, but he's a really good runner. He's got a lot of intangibles, and he'll be there in the future starting for us, if not day 1. Rico Yasene would go to the Dolphins, so he will be backing up to Tagovailoa. And we would go ahead and trade up for the 80th pick here. Maybe sent a little much in the package, as Jason Clemens goes 13th in the 3rd round. And now we're picking Chris Harris III out of BYU at pick number 80. I think this was a great value pick. Chris Harris was a prospect that really intrigued me. He kind of reminded me of Brett Kraft a little bit, just maybe not quite as good in coverage. So we'll see if he can do similar things. As Darius McIntyre goes pick 26 in the 3rd round. That Heisman winning season really helped bolster his draft prospect there. And if we look at the Seahawks roster, he will be QB2 behind Russell Wilson. He could be starting if Russ goes down. Justice Richards was our next pick at 109. Just kind of liked what I saw from him. A value pick here. A big frame, big catch and traffic receiver. He could see some red zone targets. Atari Mason would be picked up 141st. Atari was a wide receiver at Olympia and then transferred out to Utah State with his last year of eligibility to play quarterback for him, and he had a fantastic final season. He's not your traditional quarterback in that he doesn't have great accuracies, he doesn't have great arm strength, but he's a great runner. He's got some interesting intangibles, and I'm excited to see him. Run on fullbacks here. Justin Wiseau goes. And how about Mike McMillan out of Utah State going? So in the 5th round, a little run on fullbacks. Jimmy Shelton would be Mr. Irrelevant picked, and let's take a look at him. Solid lineman. He's going to be a good practice squad player. We'll move him to left tackle as well, as he had pretty good pass protection. So looking over some of the draft prospects we had, let's go ahead and take a look at Jakarde Stoudemire, and this guy is a dominant edge rusher on day 1. He can beat you with the bull rush, he can beat you with the finesse rush. He's a good run stopper. Chantel McKenzie, same thing. He'll knock the center on their butt and also stop the run. Jamie Sanchez might be one of the steals of the draft here. Drafted earlier than I expected, but man was he good. Derek Frost, hurts me that we didn't get him. Trevor Bertier was a pretty solid player, as John Schweiss might be another steal of the draft though. Hidden development, 21 years old, and he's got a head on his shoulders. Rico Yacene's an interesting prospect. You know, his short accuracy wasn't there, but his throw power is really solid, so he's a big arm guy. Brett Kraft to the Vegas Raiders. I really think this was a great pickup for them. I'm excited to see how his career unfolds in Vegas. Of course, someday we might see him, and we might even have him on our team. You never know. Moving forward again, Jason Clemens out of Olympia drafted, and he goes to the Titans. Mike McMillan out of Utah State going to the Giants to play with Austin Belton. And then Darius McIntyre, D-Mac, my nephew, excited for him, won the Heisman. I mean, you're getting an award winner here, a great player, a great young man, and hey, he could be starting for the Seahawks barring an injury. Thank you so much for watching this offseason recap, everyone. I will see you all in the preseason recap coming up soon.